Welcome, everyone. Mark and KC from your Boondock Technologies team. Jesse is having the middle of the day with a toddler breakdown, so we're not going to see him until, we're just going to give him the day off. We can handle everything today. Glad you joined us. We hope you're enjoying your Boondock Echoes. If you're not aware already, some previous streams have information on how to bring up and how to recover your device. Today, we're going to cover something a little bit different. We're going to take the device, break it open, see what's inside, teach you how to set your audio levels for optimal recording, tell you about the next firmware release, which will be in the early part of next week, and also walk you through any other questions that you have. There will be a link that we'll present in a little bit for you to join us backstage. If you want your questions answered live, remember in the second half of the hour, you can do that here. Additionally, you can always ask your questions in the chat. We're happy to answer them. So with that, let's hop right into it. KC, how are you today?
I'm doing well, just preparing and testing the new firmware. And it's a very interesting thing I want to discuss is traditionally we buy a radio or a gadget or a technology. We buy it and we just use it. And why do we have so many firmwares? The reason is that we are constantly enhancing it, and Boondock is a small computer, so we will, over the time, as we learn from our feedback, we want to be really fast to fix things, add new features. And somebody said, one of the users said that, you know what, the LED, they blink too much, and I would want to turn them off at night. So I'm like, okay, great, let's do that. So our goal is that as the time goes, as we get feedback, it is the firmware evolves, the product evolves, and what you can do with it will also evolve. You can do you can send Morse codes, and we do not know what else we will be doing in future. So please be patient with our firmwares, and we will have constant firmware updates with new features coming much more frequently compared to other products which regular hams are used to.
Okay. Another question that I would have if I was a user is, where are we with subscription costs and fees and all that stuff now? We want everybody to be able to use this for free, especially while we're going through this scaling process, right?
Exactly. And so all the services are free right now. And as we roll out, our initial goal is make sure that everyone gets a good quality service. Their Boondock devices are working, their recordings are working, they understand how to use it. And so we don't have any limits as such right now. And another point about how much can I record. So one of the users was asking, I don't want to exhaust my recordings. Right now, there's no limit, but we are following the philosophy of fair usage policy. It's like, as long as you are connecting to your local repeaters or even police scanners, it's fine. The moment you connect it to Nova Weather Radio 24/7, that's not fair usage. You might end up exhausting your number of recordings or recording hours. So as long as you are just using it regularly, I think even after we go live and after the free trial is over, still, as long as you are doing a fair usage, you'll be good with how much you can record. And you will be able to see on the system that how much recordings are already done, how much you have remaining, stuff like that.
Wonderful. But that reminds me too about what you're working on the back end, about transcription quality. What about transcription servers, all that other stuff? You're working on all of that, upgrading all of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say the biggest issue that we have seen, some of our users are complaining, and it's not new. We have seen it, that there are certain hallucinations. It will say it's just a beep, and the transcription service will say, oh, thank you for watching, or please subscribe to our channel, things like that. The reason being, the AI model that we are using was largely trained on content which is out there, like YouTube or videos. And we are already in the process of identifying all these hallucinations. We have a fix in progress. Because we have so much sample data now. Jesse has been recording. I have been recording continuously. Mark, you have bunch of recording, and some of the beta testers who agreed to share their data with us. We have all this data. Now we are in the process of applying those fix, which will understand those hallucinations and will be better in transcribing. Then we are also planning to fine tune our own AI model, which is specialized on the radio data. So uh, this is the typical uh, radio transmissions, and we'll be fine tuning on that. So we will have even better transcription. That will take some time because we need to test, make sure that quality of transcriptions is better than what we have today. So we have multiple things going on, too many irons in the fire right now
Yeah,
to
yeah.
get better services.
Something that I do hope people remember or understand as we're going through this. Boondock is a total of 6-member team. There's 3 of us who have full-time jobs and work on it in our free time between family and all that. And then we've also got a 3-member offshore team that works on it mostly full-time. But nobody's extracted any value from this company yet. Nobody's pulling in any money. We're trying to do whatever we can to give you the best experience we can with the resources that we currently have. And they're not the resources of a mature company. We're moving in leaps and bounds to get there, but we're not there yet. Anyhow, all that being said, Casey, where do you want to start? You want to start with a teardown? Do you want to start with setting audio levels? What are you in the mood for? Oh, we lost your audio.
I was talking on mute. So I'd like to address some of the questions which are very common related to Boondock. Okay. What is these buttons do? Why is my LED blinking like that and stuff like that? So I would love to do that. And after that, it'll be great. We have a teardown. I think once someone gets their Boondock live, like as I checked about an hour back, we have over about 30 people live, 30. 25 of them are recording the audio properly. There, so we have audio recordings. But I believe some of us are not that lucky. We have some issues with the recording. So as you do the teardown, it'll be great to know a little more about why we have 2 audio jacks and which one should I use. And I have this radio. What should I use? I have a scanner. What should I? So that'll be great. But I'd like to get started with talking a little bit about the buttons and LEDs. What do they do? Why do we use it?
Okay, sounds good. I've got a top-down view of my Boondock right now for you up on screen.
Mm-hmm.
If you'd like to start telling us about the buttons.
Okay, so to quickly catch up on the buttons, on the far left, the button you see is, of course, it says reset, and that's to just reset your device. Think of your Boondock device, it's always on device. So there's no on-off switch. You plug it in and it's on. And for whatever reason you want to reset it, just press the reset button and it will restart. If you're not sure about anything, you can just push the reset button. You cannot damage anything within Boondock Echo was just by pressing the reset button. It's just like a reset on your computer. The next one is the function button. Now, function button is meant for advanced users who want to put their own firmware. If you remember that we already have our firmware, our source code as an open source, and we are planning to publish the latest code as well. So you might want to take the source code and modify it on your own and make your own firmware. So that's when you use function button and then reset. Boondock Echo will go into a bootloader mode. It's like that's when you load a new firmware on technically an operating system for the device. In most cases, you don't need to use the function button. Push to talk. The next one is very obvious. You push it and you talk on the microphone. And it also has some additional functions. And if you want to restart your Boondock Echo in offline mode means that you are outside, you know that you don't have any internet connection. You unplug your Boondock Echo, press and hold push to talk, and plug it in, and it will give you a beep, which tells you that, hey, something happened, and it starts in offline mode. It will create its own Wi-Fi network. Those who have already registered, they know that it creates a Wi-Fi network. You connect with your phone, and you'll get an interface which lets you access all your audio files, all the audio recordings. I'm talking about you are away from internet, and your Boondock is recording audios. So you can play those audio files, download them, even transmit them. So there's a web interface that is used in offline mode. So moving on, previous and next button. Uh, I want to say that some of users are having issue with the previous and next button, and I'm also looking at it. We have a new firmware coming out uh, to potentially fix those issues that we are having. The pre So imagine you have your Boondock Echo sitting and recording audio files. You push the next button, and it will play the last unread message, last audio file that uh, you haven't played yet. So pushing next will keep on playing the next audio. It also tells you the time when the audio was received. So that's your next and previous function. If you want to listen to an audio again, push the previous button, and it plays that audio again. If you want to listen to uh, all the audio files sequentially, you double tap on the next button, and it will start playing all the audio files that it has in its memory. The same thing happens is if you double tap previous, it does the same thing. It will go to the beginning, and it will play all the files in the memory. Right now, it can hold up to 50 audio recordings in its memory. So when you play next, you can play up to 50 audio files. But if you want to go beyond 50 files, then you have to use the offline interface that I was talking about. So there's one more function about the previous and next button. I'll talk about that in a second. The next is volume button. Volume, as it says, uh, it has three functions. You tap it, then it will increase the volume by 10%, and you keep tapping it, it will keep increasing. And when it reaches 100%, it will cycle back to 10%. So that this lets you select the audio level and that you prefer. If you double tap the volume button, then it will mute or unmute itself. So if it's already the speaker is on, it will mute that. Double tap again, it will unmute. So it has also function. Um, Now, there is a special function which you need to press three buttons at a time. That is previous, next, and volume. We kept it like this so that you do not accidentally do it. Before you plug it in, if you hold these three buttons and then you plug it in, or you hold these three buttons and reset Boondock Echo, then just hold them for about 5 seconds and you will hear a beep, and your Boondock will factory reset. Okay, factory reset is a wrong term. Let me rephrase it. It will set all the defaults. Sometimes you are a little confused that I don't know what happened, it's not recording properly, or maybe I set the volume too low. I'm not sure what's going on. You can hold all these buttons, reset it. It will set all the defaults. The good thing is it is intentional, that it will not delete your network configuration. So it will not forget your internet. So you don't have to reset set the internet again. So that's special functions. So just to recap, each button you will find 2 to 3 functions: single tap, double tap, or press and hold. So volume button, if you press and hold, it will get the volume to maximum. Sometimes you don't want to go through 10 steps to get to 100%. You press and hold, volume become 100%. So you are sure that you are listening to the loudest audio possible. And um, similarly, as I talked about, push to talk has only one function: uh, push, talk, release, and it disconnects.
Cool. All right. How about the switches, Casey?
All right, absolutely. So um, the switches are used to uh, So there are two switches you'll find. One is on the right side, one is on the bottom. So let me talk about the one on the right side first. So one on the right side is to enable or disable push to talk. This will physically disconnect your transmit. That means it disconnects the push to talk uh, uh, wire or pin or signal to your radio. So there is no unintentional transmission. I would like to call it as a safety switch, but we're just calling it enable push to talk. So you can push it up or push it down to enable or disable your push to talk.
Cool. And then on the back side, hiding here.
So I think once you do the open heart surgery, we'll see a little more. But the switch on the back is usually best for a scenario when you have something like a police scanner, which has a headphone level out. So headphone level out means whatever your scanner device is, they want you to connect standard headphones to it. So if you are connecting it to the headphone out, you can actually connect to your cell phone. Cell phone also has a headphone out. I'm sorry, there were days that we had audio jack on the cell phones. I don't think they have anymore. But if there's any standard headphone level out, you can connect. So that's your bypass switch that you can flick it, and it will send the signal from your device straight to Boondock Echo without any filtering or processing. This is useful when your audio level is so low, it's very low, and you want to kind of amplify that. So that's a bypass switch.
Yeah. So just to be clear here, in the up position, the switch is bypassing any attenuation circuits. That's good for line out. And when it's in the down position, it's going to be attenuated, which is good for headphone or speaker out of your device. So cool. All right. Any other functionality of the Boondock Echo before we move on?
I think these are the most interfaces. I just like to talk once more about the difference between radio in, out, and the audio in. So,
of course,
the biggest difference between radio in, out, because it says in and out, so it's doing both. It can record from your radio, and it can also transmit on your radio. So this jack you will use with a TRRS type of connector, which has basically 4 rings or 4 connectors. And this is usually whenever you want to transmit something. There are a bunch of cables and available in the market which follow this standard, and it can connect to radios like a Baofeng or a Yaesu or ICOM. You'll easily find cables for pretty much all the popular radios out there. However, the other one, audio in, that's designed when you only want to get the audio in. It could be a police scanner. It could be an SDR you are running on Raspberry Pi, or any kind of device which is just giving an audio out and you just care about recording it. That's when we use the audio in. I would personally use audio in if I don't want to accidentally transmit on any frequency. So that's the difference. Last thing I would add is we are currently working on a feature which lets you convert your Boondock Echo into a duplex repeater, so you can have your audio in coming on the audio in and transmitting on the radio out at the same time. So it will just become a standard good old repeater. So that's another feature which we are working on, and it will be coming up in the some of the firmwares in few weeks.
All right. Thank you so much, KC. That was a lot of information. Would you like to move to the teardown now?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. As a quick reminder for our viewer out there, if you'd like to join us for a live Q&A, use the StreamYard link below. You will have to close YouTube down to make that happen. But once you do, I mean, we'd be happy to see you. All right. I'm going to go to a top-down view Sorry that I'm not sophisticated enough to have green screen stuff on and off, but we have noticed a couple users that want to poke around under the hood or maybe replace their cases. Your case is made of resin, and that is great. It's a nice smooth finish, but it's not great for some other material properties. One of which is the strength of the threads here. We notice there's quite a bit of manufacturing variability, so that sometimes the threads will pull through if you tighten them too much. When we assembled your case, we used calibrated torque wrenches or torque screwdrivers to keep from pulling through, because unfortunately the difference between tight and too tight is really small. So whatever you do. Yes,
Mark,
sir?
do you mind maximizing your window? Like right now, we are side by side. I think our users would love to see that. Oh yeah, that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Casey. I appreciate that. So anyways, my point is, if you have one available to you, you might want to try a calibrated screwdriver. We tried to tighten these things up to 5.5 Newton meters each time, was about the sweet spot where everything was tight, but not too tight. And if not, just be kind of ginger with everything, and you should be good to go. Once you have the case open, and I'm going to get my keyboard out of the way here, and another screwdriver set out of the way there. Whoops. But once you have the case open, you're going to find a speaker that plugs into the lowest port only. Here we've got the little button array. This is all of your volume and whatnot. And then this is the switch thing. And I'll show you how to put all those back on here in a second too. Boondock Echo comes in two pieces. The first, and for those of you wondering why we used micro USB ports, is this is an open source project all in itself. This is the AI Thinkers, oh gosh, Casey, it's escaping me right now. I know it's the ESP32 audio kit by AI Thinker. Is this the Lyra or is this a different one? Do you remember that at all? Or
yeah, I think it's just called Audio Kit.
Just Audio Kit, but it's an open source project all by itself. And if you don't want to buy a full Boondock Echo and you just want to record only, you can actually just buy this and build your own attenuation circuit. I'm going to go to a close-up view. So this board was not designed by Boondock Technologies. This was by AI Thinker. Anyhow, the next board is an add-on that we used. And this gives us a variety of things. It gives us indicator lights. It gives us some attenuation circuits. And it also gives us, our push-to-talk circuit. So that when we do want to transmit, that we can short the shield together on the Kingwood K1 cable, and that we can actually transmit. All right, so just a quick review, a quick recap. The Boondock Echo is two boards. One is the open source AI Thinker, and the second is the attenuation and indicator light board. On the back side of this board is a little switch that lets you bypass the attenuation circuit. And you use that when you have very, very low levels of line in. Any questions on that, please go ahead and ask them. If not, I'm going to keep plowing ahead and tell you a little bit more about these things as Jesse designed them.
I have a question, Mark, on behalf of our viewers. So what's the white connector on left side?
Casey, shh, don't tell our secrets, but that's a great one. This is a hidden secret of Boondock Echo. This is something we didn't want to deal shipping with, but this is for a little lithium ion battery that you can plug into your Boondock Echo and give you very, very long life on a very small battery. The Boondock Echo doesn't take a whole lot of current, so if you plug something in here, and maybe you want to print your own case bottom, again, something to accommodate that, you can run your battery for anywhere from hours to days, depending on what size you get. The only thing to keep track of is the wire polarity. If you get that backward, bad things will happen. So, little Easter egg in there, you can have a battery-powered Boondock Echo. Something else, too, that's due to what's happening underneath this can, we removed a microphone from the board. This is the microphone that's also connected to the radio input, the line in. And if we didn't, it would be broadcasting your room audio to our servers, which we didn't want. So we deleted this one. This microphone, you have to hit the push to talk button to make it work. So that's a little bit of the overview so far. Any other questions, Casey? Or should I show people how to put this back together when they take it apart?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, no, those are great questions, buddy. Thank you for doing that. And viewers out there in TV land, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask those to us as well. If you do take this apart, just something to keep in mind on this ribbon cable. Let me go to a close-up view. On the ribbon cable on the right here, the little notch, the polarized notch goes up. That's really your only option. And on the ribbon cable on the left, the ribbon notch goes down. So it looks something like this. So pin 1 left, pin 1 right type thing. Cool. All right, let's get this bad boy put back together. So this takes a little bit of dexterity and a little bit of practice and trial and error. Your switch is going to go with the switch side or the open side down on the bottom. Your speaker gets plugged into the bottom hole, the bottom speaker port. Make sure that as best as you can, you seat your buttons in there. And when I was assembling these, the way that I would typically do it would be I would hold the switch in place with my left hand and I would rotate it over with my right. You should be able to have everything click, all the buttons click, and then again, when you put these things back in, the most torque that you typically want to use is about 5.5 Newton meters. And the easiest way to accomplish that is with a calibrated torque device, torque wrench of some sort. You can, I would say 90% of the time, do it by feel. But with manufacturing variability, not all of the screw holes were the same diameter. It was pretty inconsistent, actually. So it's that last 10% where going from tight to stripped is really way too close. And if anybody out there knows anything about case design and wants to help us avoid that in the future, man, I would love to hear. All right, so that's it for the tear down and the put together. We're back.
I have two question mark. One is from me and another one is from one of our users on Discord.
Okay.
So my first question is, will I void the warranty if I open it?
No. Let me get back to being on screen here. No, you won't void the warranty by opening it. If you've got an issue and you think you can fix it, by all means fix it. If you strip out a screw hole, put a little drop of thick CA glue in there and let it dry, and you can reuse the screw hole. So no, you won't void the warranty. And in fact, you might want to adjust the attenuation settings inside. That's
great. Second question is about, I got from a user, is if I, for whatever reason, I want to put a battery in my Boondock Echo, I want to take it outside, use it in an outdoor environment with its own battery. What about the case and the design and STL files?
Okay, we've just been a little bit swamped, but we will absolutely get all of those uploaded to you sometime this week into our GitHub. Boondock is an open source project. so you guys can make it your own. We absolutely want you to be able to do that. We've got all the files. We are just, we keep tweaking things. We need to just make sure everything's uploaded and updated. And then we can send out a newsletter from boondocktechnologies.com that lets you know where everything is. Yeah, print your own, make it your own. That's what open source is all about. You're muted again, my friend.
I had a few more questions. I'm just taking from what people have asked me on Discord. What is the power consumption of Boondock Echo?
We probably need to recalibrate that, because the last time I looked at it was a good, 5 or 6 months ago. But we're down in the 100 milliamp range. It really depends on what the Boondock's doing, the duty cycle, if it's recording, if it's transmitting, how often the LEDs are on. So I don't know that I have a good answer for you right now, but that's something I can hook up to some test equipment and get pretty quickly for you. You're muted again, buddy.
There's another question kind of related to that. The battery, the power consumption is, what is the best way for me to get noise out of my Boondock device while I'm recording? How to get the best audio recording quality?
I'm really glad you brought that up. I knew there was something I wanted to talk about today, and darn it if that isn't it. So when you power your Boondock Echo device, most people are going to plug it in. It doesn't really matter which port, they're the same as far as power goes. They're both connected to one another. But you're going to plug it into something. And whatever source you choose, it might be clean, it might be noisy. The noise level of that source will dictate audio quality. So if it's plugged into a noisy source, you're going to get noisy analog to digital conversion, and you'll actually be able to hear just this really weird warble or noise in all of your recordings. And that's because you've got a bad power supply. Now, there are other reasons too, even if you have a clean power supply, that you can get noise. One of them is something called a ground loop. So let's say you've got your radio on a charger and you've got the Boondock Echo on a different charger. These things are going to be disconnected from AC power by 2 independent transformers. After they go through all of their processing, they're going to have different ground reference levels, right? We think of ground as this universal 0 volt, and it's just not. One device's ground might not be the other device's ground. And the way that you can deal with that is by putting in some sort of a ground loop isolator. And in fact, I'm pretty sure I have a couple of those floating around here. Tell you what, I'll bring one up for you here, I believe. But while I'm looking for, it's not right there. Okay, I'll find one for us before the stream's over. But what you want to do is put in an isolation transformer between your audio source and your audio sink, so that if you do have 2 different ground references, that you're not going to send current from one device to the other. And that will absolutely happen if you put your radio on to charge and your Boondock Echo, is not, then the radio is probably going to shoot up to, 3, 4, 5 volts above the Boondock Echo. And energy is going to go on the ground line from here down to here. And that will absolutely muddy up your audio thing, your audio quality. Casey, give me a second to look for an audio isolator so I can show people what those look like. While I do, can you kind of tell us how we should be setting our audio levels for the Boondock Echo?
Sure, sounds perfect. I'll try to cover 2 points. One is setting up the audio level on Boondock Echo, and I should be able to switch my camera to show the Boondock device. Okay. And I just need to disable the virtual background.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the virtual background, so I just disabled that. So, so on Boondock Echo, we have internal circuit. Mark was also showing it earlier. Let me just bring that up. I have one open right here. uh, we have internal circuits to set the attenuation level. So the audio level that comes to my radio is converted to the right level of audio so that it is recorded by this the whole audio uh, audio analog to digital converters here. So all that magic happens on this board on the right. We have designed the audio level um, in such a way that it will work with most common Baofeng and K1 type of connector. So if you have a radio, let me show you another one. So if you have a radio like this, we have defaulted all the settings, so it should work perfectly. So if you turn on your radio, and let me just connect an antenna, and I will try to set up on. So once you turn on your radio, so for example, right now I'm I'm listening to the weather radio. Usually you set up the radio to a level that you would like to listen. You can hear within a few feet from it, and the audio is enough so that you can understand what is playing on the radio. Once you are on that level on the radio, and once you know what's the position, I would say that's the position you should use to get this audio into Boondock Echo. For example, I will turn it on, and I know that okay, I can hear it properly, and I plug it in. And the moment you will do that, you will also realize that the level of the volume level of my radio kind of matches the default values of Boondock Echo. So if my volume is such that I can hear it from few feet, you will be able to hear something similar on the Boondock Echo. If you notice that the um, audio levels are not good or it's too low, then all you have to do is just try to increase the volume, listen to a few more recordings online, and see whether are you getting too much audio. It can cause audio clipping on your file. If that's the case, you reduce it. But I would say it's always safe to put it on a normal hearing level, plug in Boondock Echo, and you should be good. There are so many other ways you can set up uh, gain of your audio recordings, and maybe we'll talk in another video about how to set up the gain. The second point, while we are getting ready for Mark, I wanted to cover is, let me quickly change my camera back to myself.
And just an FYI, Casey, I'm ready whenever you are.
Okay. So second point I wanted to mention is when I was setting up my kind of technically my own Radio Shack, I put some antennas up there, uh, up in the loft, and I ran the cables through the wall, and then I had all my radio equipment with those antennas, and I was having some noise in some random noise on my radio, and I talked to Mark, hey, I'm getting this noise, what do I do? And Mark said, how about you just test your setup, connect the battery, and see whether you still have the noise. If that's not the case, then noise is coming from your house. It could be an LED bulb, it could be your TV, it could be any electronic that you have. So that's what Mark was talking about, isolating your radio from the noise. And if you want to test it, just get a power bank, power up your Boondock Echo with a DC power bank, and see, do you still have the same noise? If not, perhaps it is the problem is your power supply or your AC to 5-volt adapter. Over to you, Mark.
All right. Thanks, Casey. Absolutely. If you do have noise, start chasing it down. All right. So we were talking a minute ago about different reference grounds. If you've got a radio, especially a radio that's on a charger or a scanner that's plugged into some line power device, the ground on the device is going to be different than the ground on the Boondock Echo. And the way that you can deal with that is with a really, really cheap ground loop isolator. All these things are, and I don't know if I can crack this one open to show you, is just a transformer. But what it does when you plug one audio device in one side and another audio device in the other is everything's got to run through that transformer. There's no direct electrical connection from this side of the device over to this side of the device. That means everything is AC coupled. So we plug into our Boondock Echo, and on your Kenwood K1 connector, the 2.5 millimeter is the speaker out. So you would just connect them something like this, and that eliminates the ground loop. So now you've got, again, clean audio again, because you're not essentially discharging the radio through the Boondock Echo's audio lines. So that can really help to clean stuff up as well. I do see we have a few more viewers, so if you do have questions, feel free to ask them in the chat, or you can join us live. What we've covered so far today is what's inside the Boondock Echo, what's going on with the firmware releases, and we're going to be having one of those out in the early part of next week for you. We'll be sure to announce on our Discord server. We've covered how to get better audio, and we've covered how to set audio settings. What else do users need to know, or do you think the users would like to know? I know I've always been upset about the audio quality that comes out of some of our police dispatchers. What are some of the pain points that we've been seeing along the journey with our friend Dan? And what, if anything, can we do about them? So Casey's still on mute, so I'll answer some of those. Amateur radio operators have a tendency to speak, not all, but most, speak clearly, coherently, and at a reasonable pace. Whereas police dispatchers sometimes speak like this. If it takes a trained human ear to be able to pick out what they're saying, and I've even asked police officers about this once we discovered it was a problem, they say that sometimes they don't even know what the dispatcher says. If the dispatcher has good audio volume but poor enunciation, there's really nothing we can do about that other than train a specific model for police dispatchers. We've found some dispatchers mumble, some of them whisper, some of them talk in a completely incoherent way. And there is no AI model currently trained that can do that. If you have audio and you're unsure, is it the Boondock Echo device or is it the model, send it to us, and we can run that through various models, either AI Whisper or Google or Amazon. Casey's got different models he can throw at it, and we can tell you whether or not that this type of thing is salvageable. You will find that the dispatchers, as they change shifts, the audio settings for the Boondock Echo sometimes have to change too. That is something we can potentially throw some technology at in the future. But if you're looking for us to perform miracles, we can't. For most audio in commercial, enterprise settings, we've got 80-90% accuracy. But if somebody's not giving us good quality audio in, or they're not putting good quality audio into the radio, there's not much we can do about it. Casey, unmute yourself, my friend, and tell us more.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and I have struggled myself with getting good audio quality, and especially when I'm trying to listen to what's nearby, and listening to police department or fire department. It might be very interesting, and just related to that, I have a question for you, Mark. Before that,
Sure.
I would like to share my screen quickly, and I think one of the questions some of the newer hams would have is, what do I listen to? So I have a quick thing I want to share is, when you go to Boondock Echo and you are on your account and you just put the address or your city name, this is where I live, and you can see that it'll show you what is nearby. So for example, we have all these repeaters, W9JVC and N9K YK XKY and W9DUP is something I listen to a lot. So you can look at what is nearby. You can pan. Usually with a normal 2 meter antenna, if the antenna is on top of your roof, you should be able to uh, listen to at least at least 10 miles, and depending on a lot of other factors, you can easily see that what is near you and what you should listen to. This will give you a list of all the repeaters and what's nearby, and that's kind of a good way to start if you haven't looked what is nearby, what's good to listen to. It's very easy to find within Boondock Echo.
That is a wonderful feature, Casey, and also a reminder to people that they can go to Radio Reference or Repeater Book or even Chirp and import a code plug that gives them even more things to listen to. All right, Casey, you had a question for me. What is it, my friend?
Yes, I have it. So I keep hearing about people who listen to radio. They talk about uh, this is digital signal and this is P35 signal, and
P25, yeah.
what is that, and how do I know what's nearby? Like where I live, how do I know which police scanner should I get, or what's the signal around me?
Got it. So the old school, all the police and fire were on analog channels, narrow FM. And the nice thing about that is you can tune into most of that with a $20 Baofeng radio. Or if you want to get a little fancier, you can get yourself a Uniden scanner for about $100, and you can listen to all of it. But lately, a lot of these people have been transitioning to Project 25, P25, and it's been out for a little while. So I believe now it's on phase 3 of that rollout. And that's digital communication. So the audio is taken inside the radio and it's converted to a digital, and it's sent out into the world over repeaters. And oftentimes, it'll be on a trunked system. So it's not that the audio just goes out on one frequency. It'll go out on a variety of frequencies. So you need something that is sophisticated enough to chase those frequencies around. And those scanners are unfortunately pretty expensive. Those are, the Uniden Bearcat, and I forget the numbers, like 100, 200, I forget which one's which. One's handheld, one of them's a little network scanner. But those things are $500-600 new. The only other way that you can get the audio off of those is if you have a radio that's programmed for those frequencies. And again, these are still really expensive radios, but it can jump around and follow those for you. Then you can tune to it. So there's really, if you live in one of those areas where the police are going to these digital modes, it's might as well be encrypted for all you can do to it with an inexpensive radio. It's just going to sound like data to you. It's going to sound like noise. So for you, my friend, you might have to, at some point, if you want to listen to the police, bite the bullet and get one of those fancy scanners that can decode the P25. Did that answer your question?
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And I will take two questions. One is from Rusty. He had a question about alert, so I'll want to share my screen again.
Of course.
All right, let me
do that. Yeah, how do I set up an alert or a wildcard alert?
Yeah. So about alerts, I think the best feature of Boondock Echo is it can record everything, whether you are there in front of the radio or not. So I don't really want to sit in front of my radio or listen to the events. I can see them from anywhere. The natural next thing is setting up alerts so that I get notified when something happens. That's where the alerts come in. And creating alerts is very simple. And I want to talk about a few scenarios. So you can create an alert. For example, I can create an alert. Let's say I call it health emergency in Lombard. So I want to look for health emergency in Lombard. It's just a generic name. You can give it whatever. So now here I want to see Cambria Lane. This is where I live. So imagine if I'm listening to the fire department and police department on my scanner, then I would put Cambria Lane as a keyword. Now, Cambria Lane itself is considered to be it's supposed to be in the keyword. So I should type it better. So this means whenever it finds Cambria Lane, it will consider that as an alert. And sometimes what might happen is I want to see anything that starts with Cambria. So I can do Cambria and star. Cambria star means anything that comes after Cambria will be captured. I can even do this. I can do KCAMBRI star. So anything after CAMBRI will be captured. If I want to use a wildcard, let me show you an example of another wildcard. So if I put H question mark P enter, so this will pick up hat, it will pick up hut, and so it will pick up both the words, but there'll be only one letter between H and T. So this way, if you are in a situation that there are some words which could be similar and you want to use wildcard, you can do that too. If I want to do, let's say, Cambria Lane, and I know that we have South Cambria Lane and North Cambria Lane, so I can do this question mark. So even if it detects at Cambria North Lane or South Lane, they both would be captured as an alert. So
Cool.
you can use two wildcards, either asterisk or you can call it star and question mark. And these are very standard logic. Anyone who has worked in Windows or DOS systems would know star and asterisk and question mark. So it's the same logic.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you so much, Casey. Last call for questions. And if anybody out there would like to know more about Boondock Echo or how to use theirs, we're happy to answer them. In the meantime, I will remind everyone to check out the Discord server where we try to be as present as we can. We want to make sure you have a good experience with the Boondock Echo. I'd like to remind you that there is a new firmware that should solve a lot of the issues that we saw with the shipping firmware, and we should have that out for you. When do you think, Casey? Early next week?
Yes, we are pushing out a new firmware early next week. We will also send the notification, and I would say the firmware largely has bug fixes and enhancements based on what we heard from our users. Like, I'll give you an example. One of our users said that sometimes he wouldn't understand what mode Boondock Echo is in. Is it online? Is it offline? So now we have audio notification whenever you start the Boondock Echo. If you started in offline mode last time, the moment you turn it on, it will say Boondock in offline mode or Boondock in online mode. So it makes it easier to understand rather than going online or connecting through your phone to access the Boondock to see whether it is online or offline. So we have bunch of audio notifications, some new methods to start your Boondock in these special modes. You want to start, let's say you go outside for camping and you want to set up your Boondock as a simplex repeater. And all you need to do is push a button, start it, and it will say Boondock in simplex repeater mode. So you know clearly that now it is in repeater mode. So it makes it easier for everyone. So we have a lot of bug fixes, notifications, and some bunch of enhancements, the feedback that we got from our users.
Wonderful. Casey and I will probably do this, and hopefully Jesse will do this again a few times next week, or at least one or two. And perhaps then we can do a demo on how to get IFTTT integration going, Casey?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a big one and very interesting one.
Yeah. All right, folks, it has been an absolute pleasure. I would like to encourage everybody to watch more of our live streams to learn more about the Boondock Echo. We've covered how it works. We've covered what it does, some of the features. Today, we covered how to set up audio levels, what's inside the case, a few other things. Now, stand up for a few minutes, go walk around, and then go visit our friends over at Ham Radio Crash Course. I will do my best to hang out in the after chat to answer more questions about Boondock Echo if anybody has them. Other than that, you can find us on the Discord. Thank you for joining us and spending your valuable time. We hope to see you again soon. Casey, thank you. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.